judged it better to bring evil. Sorry, God judged it better to bring good from evil than to suffer no evil at all. I don't quite know why that is, but I think there's something about the formation of character under hardship that produces a person who has a lot of character and good qualities. But we'll pause there because we're getting slightly off topic. What else makes us human? There were some biological qualities. We haven't got many social qualities. Yep.
Creative.
Creative, right. Yep, we'll talk about this today. We are creative. We like doing edits and things like that. Yep. Emotional creatures. Yes, we are. This is a good thing, and when it's not under restraint, can be not good. Yeah, down the back.
Oh, we have habits.
Habits, yeah, that's good. I haven't had that one yet. We're creatures of habit. Yes, resourceful. Resourceful. Ingenuity. Yep.
Communication.
Yeah, right. Communication. One more, we're running out of space. Yeah, Marcus?
Freedom.
Freedom. Yeah. We're free creatures. Right, this is good stuff. We've got some like biological things. These kind of things. Finite, emotional. We've got some social things. What else do we have? It's kind of moral or faculties of creation, freedom, emotional, consciousness, curious. It's good. Okay. We're going to begin by chatting about this phrase, Imago Dei. Imago Dei is a Latin phrase, and it means image of God. We use that phrase because much of what was written about Christian thinking was written in Latin, by the Greek, the Western world that was speaking Latin. It's a very, very important idea when you're thinking about what it means to be human. We see it first in Genesis 1. So the first book of the Bible, God says, let us make humanity in our image, after our likeness. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. It's not saying we look like God. That's not what this means. It's not saying God's some old dude in the sky with a big beard and we look like him. It's saying there's something about our character, our presence, our authority, our personality, the way we are made that images him. It's about reflecting his character. And so in order to understand what it means to image God, we're going to understand that this narrative doesn't exist in isolation. Genesis narrative. In some ways, it's some people have argued it copies ancient narratives, ancient their creation stories, but it's more like they're writing with the intent of dispelling those other creation narratives. So we're going to look at some other some other ideas about what it means to image God. If you could read through each slide that has a little book next to it, so I think there's 3 in total. Yeah. It'll take you probably a good 10 minutes or so. Read through, highlight some stuff, pay attention to this table here. It's quite fascinating. Talks about how well structured Genesis 1 through 3 is in the Hebrew poem. And then we'll get together and chat about your reflections. So I'll give you 15 minutes in total with some reflections as well. So read through those 3 slides. The one for horns, the table, and the breathing into Adam, created by ChatGPT. Adam looks like he's having a great time. And then we'll have a chat about that after. We've got 5 more minutes to finish the questions too. If you finish the questions and the reading, you can research if you want to who this God is, this deity. If you
What if the God were like the stocks of my God is more powerful than yours? And they can light a fire and see which God would light the fire.
is a God of storm and infinity.
The two guys which I can see which God would light a fire.
Alright, go to your teaching. Thinking about these ancient Near Eastern cultures, there's not heaps on it, but a few quotes and a bit of reflection on what they meant by the term image God. When they talk about imaging God, what do they mean for these ancient cultures? What does that mean for them?
It's like they're actually there, like the gods are actually there through that statue or image.
Yeah, that idea of spiritual union between this little icon. So the image was like this carved thing, right? Like a stone or a tablet or something like that represented the deity, maybe a statue. And it would be inside a temple that was dedicated to them. And the idea was that you would come to the temple with offerings, because if you keep this little icon happy, this little image, that's actually representing the God who exists in the heavens. And so you keep that image happy, you keep your God happy. That's great. What about their view of human beings? Did the human beings have like an exalted or a high place in the worldview or not?
Slaves.
Yeah, they were kind of slave labor for the gods. Essentially, the gods kind of got sick of managing the affairs of the world, of planting and sowing crops and all this kind of stuff. And so they were like, let's create humans to do this work for us while we reside in the heavens. Yep. So human beings are an afterthought, is one way of thinking about it. A cosmic afterthought is how my professor framed it. What else about this ancient world? What other view of humans do they have? Was it a high view of humans? Not really. Pretty low view, right? They kind of come later on in the creation stories. They do what's the word for? Menial kind of task or labor. They serve the god. They have these little priests that run around keeping this icon happy. This is very, very, very different to how God images himself in the Christian story. So you guys saw this little table here. There's 3 days of forming and 3 days of filling, which is significant. Did you guys kind of see the movement here in terms of like this, the 3 days happen first where God forms the world, and then the 3 days that follow he fills things correlating to the day that he created them. So for example, day 1 he creates the day and the night, separating light from darkness. And then in day 4, which mirrors that, he puts in that darkness the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars. Day 2, he forms the waters, the skies. And then day 5, correlating that day, he fills it with birds and sea creatures. And then day 3, he creates the land, and then day 6, he fills the land. And so there's this very clear, ordered, structured view. And where do human beings come in that picture? They come towards the end or the beginning? The end, when the world is being created and formed. But do they come last because they're an afterthought or because of something else? Another way of phrasing that question is, do they come late in God's creation because he was like, I better make these creatures as well? Or did he come late in God's creation when things were already ordered and structured and fitting for them?
The second one.
The second one.
Yes. Things are already ordered and fitted. They already had food to eat. They already had a world to occupy. The idea is that they come late in God's thinking. Not that they come late in God's thinking, but that they are higher in God's thinking. Because the world was kind of created in some ways for them, which is a very radical idea in the culture that's emerged in. Could someone please read out this little quote we read here? Henry? Sorry, the quote read.
We are not created to meet God's needs. God does not have needs. And his presence in the temple cosmos does not depend on the satisfaction of any needs. The world is created for creatures.
Yeah. We say the world is created for creatures. The world that God creates is made for humanity. Fascinating claim. And so this idea is that humans, in this sense, are the image of God. Rather than having little stone icons that represent the gods, human beings in a way that God has decided to image himself in creation. Yep.
But if he's creating something, why would he like make it in his own image? So if he's like wanting to make something new, like the world is new, everything is new, but the humans are like in his own image, like would like, for example, birds and stuff be created in his own image?
No, so this is one point of difference. So people will talk about what makes humans unique. And for a long time people thought it was because that we had a soul. Because in Genesis it talks about, in this slide here, God breathing life into this Adam, this man he makes from clay. He breathes life into him and he becomes alive. And so people thought the thing that made us special was the fact that we had God's breath in us. But then it turns out, when you study the word nefesh, which is the word for breath, that other animals also have this living breath in them. So we can't correlate the soul with the breath. And so they said, well, what does make humans distinct? And what they found was that no other creature is said to be created in the image of God. It's only human beings who are created to be in the image of God. And so that's kind of what separates us. Why does he do that? I think because he wants people to represent him, to be in relationship with him, to have a role in creation. It's not just like flippant, let me create a world instead of creating a world. He wants human beings to have a high place in that world. Follow-up questions?
Would like animals go to like heaven and stuff?
I don't think so. I don't know. I can't imagine there not being animals in heaven. Well, the idea, like, heaven's an interesting one. We can talk about that later. I think a lot of our thinking about heaven is wrong. Heaven is not so much this place in the clouds where our souls go after we die. Heaven, in the biblical imagination, is a redeemed and a restored earth. So in the biblical imagination, heaven and earth join together in a redeemed and a renewed earth. And so it's called the new creation, where everything is incorruptible, with sadness and terror and tyranny and no more. Yes?
So, do we look like God, or is it just our, like,
Yeah,
personality?
so we're going to talk about that next. So thank you. So what does it mean to image God? There's two ways we're going to talk about this. The main way, the original way people thought about it was called the structural image of God. I won't spend heaps of time here. Basically the idea is that there's something in the structure of humanity that means like the way that humans kind of function, or a faculty we have, an ability we have, that images something in God. There's something in us, like a capacity we have that's a part of our structure that mirrors God in some way. And the most common way people have thought about this is with rational thinking. Because that's something that separates us from the other creatures, right? There are other intelligent creatures, like crows and some gorillas are pretty smart, dolphins are incredibly smart, but we're the only ones that have consciousness and this ability to think rationally. No other creature self-reflects in the same way that we do. And so this is the primary way that people have come to think of this. It's been around for centuries, primarily since the 5th century with this man, who I seem to talk about all the time, Augustine. Can someone just read out this quote here from him? Please. I beg of you. Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
In the red.
Yeah, in red.
That's right. The image of the Creator is to be found in the rational or intellectual soul of humanity. The human soul has been created according to the image of God, in order that it may use reason and intellect in order to apprehend and behold God.
Yeah. What does that quote mean? What's he saying there? Reading the first sentence. What does the image of God lie in, Jono?
The image of God is like within us.
Yes. In what way within? Yes, intellectual and rational. That's kind of what he's saying. So God is a mind who's created a world that is ordered and structured. We also create things that are ordered and structured because we're created by an intelligent mind. That's kind of how the argument goes. Okay, we'll have a look at this. Basically, the structure view doesn't just relate to consciousness. There's other parts of us that also express what could be named as structural kind of elements in which we image God. For example, creativity. It is a faculty we have, an ability we have that could be how we image God. We are moral. We can make moral choices. That could be the way we image God, because God talks about right and wrong, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So perhaps we're moral creatures, and in that way we image God structurally. We're creative, like I said, we tell stories, we build stuff, we make art and music. God is creative. He creates the world with beauty and colour and richness and vibrance and fertility, all these different things. We also create things. So that's another way of thinking about it as well. The main way, though, is consciousness. Because consciousness is something that we possess, but no other creature does, as far as we know. When I did my degree in counselling, it was fascinating to learn that despite so many advances in neuroscience for the last 20 years, I'll come to your question after, in the last 30 years, we still don't really know how consciousness works. We know that the brain is dependent upon like neural firing, all that kind of stuff, but we don't actually know how the mind emerges is still something that baffles many neurobiologists and neurologists. What is fascinating? Yep.
What do you like mean exactly when you say like consciousness, like compared to like other like animals that we consider intelligent, like elephants and dolphins?
Yeah. I think mainly in the ability to self-reflect. I think that's how people most would understand it. Because they're still making, C.S. Lewis and Craig in animals they have instincts. And so say for an elephant, they're drinking by a water hole and then a lion comes along to eat the young one. The animal then just has instincts based on self-preservation to save their own life, and they have instincts to save the life of their young. And so that the elephant would then essentially make a decision. Their decision for them is instinctual. It's one or the other they respond to in the moment. Whereas C.S. Lewis would say, from humans, they have this third view where they can look at what's right, they can look at the decisions they have based on instincts, and they can observe those choices. We can actually constantly reflect on the fact, I could save my child right now, or I could save myself right now. And we can reason, what should I do? Well, my child's life is actually really important to me, even though I don't want to die, so I'm going to save my child. And so the
Whereas,
fact,
like another animal would just like run away, save themselves, like.
perhaps, yeah. And so they'd say that for animals, there seems to be just this either-or option, based on instinct. So whichever instinct is strongest, they'll do that. Whereas human beings have the ability to almost observe those instincts, and then with their will, they can make a decision either way. They're almost like a bird's eye view of that ethical dilemma. And that's what they would describe as consciousness. Have a look through these two slides here. I was just kind of explaining how they've come to think about the two different views. Horizontal and vertical. I'll give you about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes. 3 minutes for that. Just have a quick gaze through. And then I want to do some riddles.
What? Wait, no. Wait, no. I got 9 more. Can you get away from it? I want to see you. Wow. Oh, 7 more. What the fuck? Wait, I'll see what you get.
Motions, Notes Quest. Is it because I had it in late? I wasn't here on Wednesday.
Why are you recording?
Wow, how the hell? Bro,